Hey guys, it's Frey, and today I'm going to talk about 7 different types of directories that you should totally avoid doing. I'm trying to save you time by sharing some of the things that I've noticed in the directory world that has led to failure and frustration so that you don't go spend your precious time falling for these common mistakes. A lot of people are fighting a losing battle. I'll give you some examples, some actual keywords, and I'll explain why you probably shouldn't start a directory if it fits this kind of directory type. The process of actually going out and building your directory once you have your idea is getting faster and faster. And it's just going to continue becoming the easiest part in the entire process. So actually most of your effort and your time should be focused on coming up with ideas, validating those ideas, looking at competitors, doing social listening and research around Reddit and social media to see if it's actually something that is a problem that you could solve with your directory. And yeah, that should be where you spend most of your time, in my opinion. A lot of the reasons why I think the very first directory website that I built was successful is because I over-researched. At the time, I didn't know anything, so I was really spending a lot of time scouring the internet, reading forums, reading comment sections of social media apps around my specific niche, and then I went and built it because building it was almost the easy part. It's a very straightforward game plan after that, but the idea itself was very well researched. So these mistakes are things that I've learned from personal experience. I've built a few directory websites that have failed because of the reasons that I'm about to share, but also, a lot of the people who are reaching out and asking me to validate their directory niche before building it, within minutes I'm noticing why they're probably looking in the wrong area. This list is a culmination of everything I'm getting from you guys, as well as my personal experience, and a couple experiences just working with a lot of business owners and talking to some, and then I look under the hood and bam, it's because of one of these reasons. And before you start, if you want to join my newsletter, I share some tips and stories around directories. Last week I talked about how I turned down $40,000 for my first directory website. And if you want to read stuff like that, I send it out every week or two, so you can look forward to that. So let's get started. I'm going to go in the computer. I'll talk about the different types of directories to avoid and then give you some examples so you kind of know what I'm talking about. So the first type of directory niche to avoid are big branded location-based keywords. So what I mean by that is if we use the trick that I talked about where we type in near me in Ahrefs, we'll see a bunch of different high volume keywords that are location-based. And a lot of them show really low keyword difficulty. So people are like, yeah, why not take advantage of Walmart near me? Do you see how these say branded? You have Walmart, Target, McDonald's. Let's just say, for example, Walmart, because the fact that this is a keyword difficulty 3, I think will misguide a lot of people. There's a couple reasons that this is a bad keyword to go for. The first reason is that Walmart is such a big company that they're going to have updated directories. So just typing in Walmart near me, here is their directory, and it's pretty much right at the top. It's an amazing directory. If it's a really big company like this, you're just not going to win. You're probably not going to create a better directory than this. There's a second really big issue with these types of niches, which is that the searcher's intent is extremely one-dimensional. So what I mean by that is when people type in Walmart near me, they're literally just looking for a Walmart near them. In terms of what they're really looking for, there's not different types of Walmarts. I know there are some differences with Walmarts. There's main Walmarts, and then there's your neighborhood Walmart, which I've noticed in my area. But for the most part, there's not a lot of fragmentation in the searcher's intent. If you think about the dog park near me example, again, there were so many different types of dog parks people were looking for. People looking for small fenced-in dog parks with shaded benches. With a niche like that, you're capitalizing on the fact that no one has gone out and built these curated directories that list out these features so that it's easier for people to find what they like. But with something like Walmart, it's just so one-dimensional, whereas something like dog parks near me has multiple angles, multiple dimensions to it, and you're gonna be able to offer value in that way if you go out and build a directory like that. So looking at a similar example like Costco, there might be a little bit of fragmentation with the search intent because everyone knows Costco gas is an incredible deal. So maybe there would be some people who just want to go to Costco's with a gas station, others who don't care and just want to find a Costco. But again, because Costco is such a developed brand, they're gonna find solutions to solve those problems, to direct people to the Costco that they prefer. And here I already found, that they did that with their directory. Now I will say this doesn't mean you shouldn't create a branded directory. It just means that you have to be really well researched when you do start a branded directory, because there are definitely directories out there for brands that are very, very popularly searched that don't really upkeep their own directories. That was kind of the whole premise of my first directory. The keyword that I targeted was a branded keyword, but that company that I was basically creating a directory for didn't have a good directory. And those exist too. You just have to make sure you're well researched and you look into their website and then confirm through social media that other people are also having a hard time finding these stores. So the second type of niche to avoid are ones where the data is really difficult to acquire. So I actually spoke to one of you guys who reached out. You mentioned you created a directory around trivia. I thought that was really cool because looking at the keyword research here, it gets 11,000 monthly searches for trivia near me. Decent volume, 42,000 monthly searches for all the keywords that contain trivia. Not bad, right? But during our conversation, I learned that it was really difficult for this person to go out and acquire this data. He even mentioned that it took 6 months to get all the information around trivia nights. Even though it still to this day gets decent amount of traffic, it is very difficult to upkeep that data. A trivia night can change on a whim. They can change locations, they could change hours. They're not really established businesses. They're kind of just things that people do for fun. And who knows when they're gonna be going out of business or just kind of end abruptly, right? There's a lot of niches out there where data is just really difficult to get. It's hard to acquire. I have personal experience with that, where one of my websites, I created a digital product. And the reason why that digital product is able to sell so well is because that information was really, really difficult to get. Not super important, but I did have to basically call a bunch of places and acquire that information through the phone. It was extremely sweaty, extremely tedious. Was it worth it? Yes, because I made profit on it and I still continue to sell it because it's an evergreen digital product. But I don't think I would necessarily do it again. So you just want to be thoughtful about how you're acquiring this data and whether it's worth it in the long run, because to upkeep a website directory for trivia might be really, really useful and you might be scratching your own itch, but it's not fun 6 months, 1 year, 2 years down the line when you realize that most of your data and your information is outdated. If someone cleared out their Saturday night, they had a stressful week at work, right? They're gonna go on your website, look for a trivia night, crossing their fingers that once they show up to the location, they're just gonna be able to enjoy a nice night of trivia, and then they realize that doesn't exist anymore. You just lost the trust between you and that searcher. So they're not gonna come back and use your website again. So for number 3, I would personally avoid location-based product niches. A really nice viewer reached out and shared that they've been building directories for a long time, and they shared this directory here, and it's for jerky. Local jerky. Don't worry, I asked them if I could publicly show their website and roast it a little bit. Now, I actually think the concept of creating a location-based product niche directory is pretty smart because it sets you up for an affiliate play if you can work with local beef jerky vendors in this case, or just local businesses who would be willing to either buy a featured listing or just get more visibility on their products. It could be worth it. Even though there's a decent amount of search volume, here we see there's a total search volume of 7,800 monthly searches, and beef jerky near me gets 2,300 monthly searches. Beef jerky and other consumer packaged goods are not known to be really high margin. These are companies that have packaging and manufacturer costs and shipping costs, and they're really only selling a product that might be worth $10, $15, maybe less. So there's not a lot of marketing budget for the most part with a local beef jerky company. The other thing is that I always consider the backup plan. So is there enough traffic? Is there enough interest online where if my beef jerky directory fails, that I could still monetize it with ads? With this, a total search volume of 7,800 for this particular niche is just not enough for me to be excited about my future ad revenue. Even if I ranked number 1 and was the dominant beef jerky directory, and I got all 7,800 monthly searches to my website, which just wouldn't happen, that would still only be under $200 a month. For me personally, it's just the juice is not worth the squeeze. But more importantly, the affiliate play. You're gonna wanna make sure that the average order value is high enough so that the company that you're promoting is going to be able to give you a decent cut. If you're okay making $100 to $200 through display ads, building a directory in a space like this, there's really nothing wrong with that. And in that case, this is totally fine. Also, you already built this, so you're already so close to being there. Why not try to optimize it and see where it goes? Now, this fourth directory that you should avoid is a B2B play where, really high search volume keyword, you're basically trying to sell featured listings. This is actually the exact keyword that I've personally tried to build a directory in. If you look at some of the keyword research, there is an insane amount of volume for plasma donation near me. So that gets 60,000 monthly searches, and then you have 103,000 for plasma donation. And even though it's high keyword difficulty, if you type in plasma donation San Antonio, for example, you will see that the actual local queries have a good amount of search volume, 2,200 searches a month, and it's still keyword difficulty 5. So those general keywords are pretty difficult, and it would take a lot to rank for those. But these smaller local keywords offer a decent opportunity, and that's what I saw. So I went ahead and built it. To add on to this, I knew that healthcare are the biggest buyers of market research data, so I had a plan to monetize that. Technically, it's still a viable play. I have a couple things that I'm tweaking with this website, but this is the opportunity that I was chasing. When you go out and see plasma donation Los Angeles and all the other big cities, it's the same. It's really low keyword difficulty and pretty high search volume. Doesn't take much to have a pretty big website, and that's where my mind was. But what I didn't realize is that there's a huge problem when you're trying to monetize a directory niche like this. And the problem is that there are very few buyers, right? It's a small buyer market for companies who actually want to buy featured listings. I only discovered this problem when I already was almost finished building it, so I did end up completing the build. If you don't know anything about plasma donation, there's probably like 10 to 20 different plasma companies in the country that actually offer paid plasma donations. People will actually donate their plasma because they can get paid out immediately. It's one of the few side hustles that exist in the world where you can literally get paid 2 hours after you donate. Maybe focus groups and surveys will pay you same day, but plasma donation, the big appeal is that you can donate, get $50, transfer it to your bank account or through a debit card within hours. That's why there's so much traffic and so much interest in a niche like this, but there's only 15 to 20 different companies who are offering this, which means that if I were going to monetize by selling sponsored listings or featured listings, there are approximately 15 to 20, head of marketings or director of marketings that I need to build rapport with in order to get this approved, because these are really massive healthcare companies. It's not like small mom and pops where I could email the owner. There's a hierarchy to the people who need to approve a decision like this. A lot of these older healthcare companies, they have one head of marketing. Usually there's only one persona that classifies as your ICP, your ideal customer profile. If you ruin that relationship, or if you're not even able to contact that person, then that's 1 out of 15 that you probably will never be able to monetize with or collaborate with. So overall, it's just a really small buyer's market, and it's not something I thought of when I created it. I had to really dig deep and figure out ways to monetize this, but it was uncomfortable to have to change my strategy because I was so confident in that being how I'm gonna make money with this website in the very beginning that I really had to pivot 2 or 3 times until I made, even $500 from this website. If you're gonna go for a B2B directory where you're selling featured listings or you're selling leads, consider the buyer market and how easy it is to access the people who are actually the main decision makers. So this was a really great niche on paper, but I failed to have the foresight on market size and the potential buyers that would actually be willing to spend money. Also, as I learned more about plasma donation companies, I realized the biggest problems that plasma companies face is not demand. The biggest problem with plasma centers in America is that there's too many leads. There's too many people trying to donate plasma. So there's really high turnover for phlebotomists, There's long wait times. This leads to hiring less professional phlebotomists that, poke people's arms and they get this massive bruise. Those are the problems that these companies are facing. They're not facing a customer acquisition problem. They have plenty of people who are trying to donate plasma. They just can't cater to all of them fast enough. So it was a good lesson, and I'm happy I did it, but I just wouldn't do it again. And hopefully you don't make the same mistake. So number 5 on the list of types of directories to avoid are niches where the searchers aren't going to Google. So look at this. Public restroom near me gets 9,200 monthly searches. That's not bad in terms of search volume. My gut intuition says that the top websites that are ranking for this keyword are not getting a lot of visitors. So this is public restroom near me in the Houston area. We don't see a lot of traffic. Sometimes people search something on Google, but it doesn't necessarily mean that the top 1 ranking is getting all that traffic. I think there's a couple gripes that I have with a niche like this. It's going to be a lot of data. So this is going to be a massive project. But I think one of the main issues is that with something like public restroom near me, even though there's some search volume, I think a lot of people naturally are going to Google Maps, maybe even Yelp in some situations, like Yelp is rank 1. And then you also have people who are just gonna look up Starbucks near me and then just use the Starbucks bathroom or ask a local stranger wherever they are. So there's a lot of reasons why people wouldn't return to your website. While this is one that I would not do myself, it's not as bad as some of the other types of directories on this list. As we can see, public bathroom Los Angeles gets virtually no searches. That kind of tells me that you have to build a nationwide directory if you're gonna go this route. Otherwise, you really won't get much traffic. Overall, just way too spread out in terms of search volume. That is why I would probably avoid it. So number 6, I would avoid any types of directories with really foggy search intent. One example is things to do near me. I'm sure a lot of us, including myself, have typed in things to do. I don't think once in my life I've ever actually gone and done that thing. And the reason is things to do is just way too broad. For the most part, it's very emotionally driven, and it really is dependent on the mood that the searcher's in. And it's really foggy. It's not clear on what people are really looking for when they type in things to do. So despite there being a massive amount of search volume, how are you supposed to help people if they don't even know what they're looking for? Do you know what I'm saying? So it's just a tricky situation. So number 7, the last type of directory I would avoid are niches where the local competition is fiercely SEO competent. Plumbers near me is often one of the really common directory niche ideas that people send me, and they're like, I'm gonna go build out a plumber directory. And look at it. Why wouldn't you? Look at these stats, right? You have a ton of monthly search volume. You have really high cost per click. So if you were to create a really successful plumber directory, you could probably never worry about the ability to sell leads. Plumbers generally make a good amount of money, so why wouldn't they pay you per lead or to sponsor a post for $100, $200 a month? It's a no-brainer. And this is something that a lot of people won't know because they may not be familiar with just how competitive the space is for plumbers. Ahrefs even says it's a low keyword difficulty of 4. So there's a few reasons why this is incredibly competitive. Plumbers near me is notoriously known to be really hard for local businesses to rank for in the first place. When you're building a directory, your competition is going to be local businesses, right? If an actual plumber is struggling to get to the first page, then your chances of getting to the first page with a fresh domain is going to be very, very, very difficult. A lot of plumbers are approached by SEO agencies and marketing agencies to improve their rankings. And if you're not in the SEO world, local SEO is arguably the easiest form of SEO. Now, it doesn't mean it's impossible. It's just going to likely take a massive amount of resources, expert level SEO knowledge, maybe even a lot of money in backlinks if you're going the paid route for the backlinks. So overall, it's just really deceptive because it looks amazing, but it's really competitive. Yeah, there's a couple other service-based business niches that are like this. Electricians near me, tree service near me. That's not to say all local service-based niches are bad. There's some incredible ones that are definitely worth building directories in. But ones like these, are extremely deceptive, and I would not recommend it, especially if you're not really confident in your SEO. I'm always hesitant to make these videos because I always want to encourage just starting, and sometimes building a directory project that may be a bad idea and fits in one of these 7 categories is better in the long run, because you're gonna build it, you're gonna fail. Hopefully you're gonna understand why you failed, and you'll make a smarter decision the next time you build a directory. I feel like that's the only way you continue striking gold in this game, is you have to be resilient to all the failures. You wanna understand what went wrong, whether it's monetization, competition, search intent. It's usually one of those 3 things that goes wrong. I guess I still want to encourage everyone who's watching this to still go for it. If you have a directory that you built half of already, why not finish it and see for yourself if I'm right or if you're right? And it doesn't matter who's right, it matters what gets results. Just keep on building. What I don't want people to take away from this is to realize maybe they built a directory that fits in one of these categories, and they should completely stop and pivot and restart all over again. Whenever I think about a directory that I built that failed because of one of these reasons that I just mentioned, I never see it as a failure. It's always a learning lesson, and I'm the kind of person who needs to actually see the proof and see the failure and see the zeros in my analytics in order to learn properly, so that I don't make that same mistake. Go out and experiment for yourself. Don't just take my word for it. Use this as a guide to be more thoughtful and strategic when you're approaching your projects. I'm not a genius, right? I just have a little bit more experience than the average person building a directory. So go out and finish your builds. If you create a directory that fails, at the very least you can look back and say, hey, I built that. And even if 50 people a month visit that directory website of yours, that's not nothing. So yeah, I'm just really cautious. I don't want to discourage anybody, because the truth is most people will probably fail if they're rushing into something like this. Let me know if this was helpful, and if one of the things that I mentioned applies to your directory website, because I'm curious to know how many people maybe had a light bulb moment when they watched this video, and I'll be answering questions as usual. Appreciate the support, and I will catch you guys in a future video. See ya.